Hey guys, Aubrey here and welcome to the channel. Also guys, remember to hit that thumbs up, really helps my channel. And if you want to see more of my content, hit the subscribe button and we'll get on with the video. Well, I've had the Fanatec DD Plus now for a few weeks and overall very happy with it. I upgraded from the CSL DD and it is a huge significant update for me and for other people. Which is why I want to do this video. This video is going to be a settings video for 6 of the main sim titles out there. iRacing won't be part of it, so I'll tell you that straight away. I just don't play iRacing, so that's not going to be involved in this video. Another note I wanted to make, there's rFactor 2, Le Mans Ultimate use the same force feedback settings, so I will do the gameplay of rFactor 2. Keep in mind those settings will also work with Le Mans Ultimate as well because it uses the same engine. Whether or not there is slight changes, I use the same force feedback settings and it works just as well with rFactor 2 and Le Mans Ultimate. These force feedback settings will be based off a nice, good, fairly heavy feeling wheel. I do particularly like a bit of a weighty feel in the wheel, but also like really good detail as well. So all these settings I've tuned to give as close as I think to the real car weight feel as best as I could with this with these force feedback settings. So for a few of the sim titles I do use Fanlab and I use the dynamic force feedback for a few of them. So the first title we're going to be doing the settings for is Automobilista 2. So I'll start with the Fanatec settings. So the sensitivity is on auto. We've got force feedback strength, that's on 100%. We want to get the 15 Newton meters of torque there. Full force isn't being used at the moment, so that's just left on 50%. We've got natural damper is on 25%. Natural friction is on 2%. Natural inertia is off. And the interpolation filter is on 2. And the rest of them are on 100%. So force feedback, effect intensity, force effect strength, spring effect strength and damper effect strength are all on 100. With Automobilista 2 we're also going to be using Fanlab, the dynamic force feedback, and what that does is that applies a bit of a damping effect while you're going down the straight at a certain speed. It will start at a minimum speed that you set it to and it will work until a maximum speed that you want it to set as well. And what that does, that helps with being able to stop oscillations, and that's especially if you want less damping in your settings. So if you like having it up fairly high force feedback without losing a lot of detail, which is what I like, but I don't want the steering wheel to shake while I'm going down the straight, I tend to use the dynamic force feedback. So we've got the speed threshold, that's on 129 kilometers an hour, so it will start working from that speed, and the max speed threshold is at 373. You can just have that at like 400, it doesn't really matter, and then it will stop working at that speed. And the effect that it will work in degrees of the wheel rotation is about 45 degrees, and the damping effect is on 35. Now we're going into the Automobilista 2 in-game settings. We're going to be using Default Plus, and we've got the main gain set to 60. I've got low force boost on 0, we've got effects on 10. I like to have a little bit more road effect there, and a few of the effects they have in Automobilista 2 seems to work well with 10. And I've got damping on 5, and the menu strength you can have whatever you like, but mine's on 10. So these force feedback settings for Automobilista 2 I think work really well. From that time as well, with all the cars, I've tested a lot of cars with these settings, and what you can do is per car you can set the force feedback down if you like. I mean, this is quite a high torque force feedback with a lot of detail. You can significantly turn down the force feedback per car if you like. So if you're having a high downforce car like an F1 car that has a lot of downforce, you can turn down the force feedback a little bit per car. The next settings are going to be for Assetto Corsa, and I've just been blown away by the force feedback detail in the Assetto Corsa with this wheelbase. It's just been fantastic. I spent probably the most time just tuning Assetto Corsa because not only are there obviously settings in the Fanatec software, but there's obviously a lot of settings in Content Manager as well. There are the main force feedback settings under the Controls tab, but there's also a force feedback in the custom shader patch, which has got a lot of settings in there now. I'll start with the Fanatec settings. We've got sensitivities on auto, force feedback strength is on 100%, full force not working 50%, natural damper 25%, natural frictions on 4%, natural inertia is on 4%, force feedback interpolation filter is on 1%, and the rest of them are on 100%. Now I do use Fanalab for Assetto Corsa, so we've got the dynamic force feedback enabled, we've got the speed threshold 129 kilometers an hour. The speed threshold max is the same as what it was for Automobilista 2, so you can put that right up to 400 or whatever, but mine's on 373. Damper effect range 45 degrees, and we've got the damper effect on 40. Then we'll go on to the main Assetto Corsa settings in Content Manager. We've got gain on 65%, filters on 0, and the minimum force is on 0. We've got curve effect on 0. We don't need to be enhancing that with the wheelbase with 50 Nm of torque. We've got road effect on 10%, we've got a slip effect on 10%, and the ABS is on 0. And you can have a look at my post-processing. I don't really use any post-processing or any filters on that. Next I'll just, you can pause the video on this page because there's a lot of settings, so best thing for you to do is just to have a view of them. Just one to note, guys, it works really well with this wheelbase is output real steering forces to the wheel. You'll see I've got that box checked, and then you just set the wheel peak torque. I've got mine set to 14.3 just to keep it down a little bit lower than 15 Newton meters. And that's my settings for Assetto Corsa, guys. I did a bit of testing with some GT3 and F1. You can turn down the per car in the game, so if you're say in the F1 car, you can bring up the force feedback and turn down the per car setting down a bit, especially if you're in an F1 car. I think I had mine down to 90% when I was just in the F1 car there, and then left it at 100%, I'm pretty sure, for the GT3 car. But yeah, just revolving these settings that I've showed you, you can just tone down the per car force feedback if you like in Assetto Corsa. Now we're on to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Again, the wheelbase works fantastic with the DD+. I think Assetto Corsa Competizione is going to have the Fanatec's full force implemented at some stage as well, but I think it's going to be on iRacing first and Gran Turismo. Anyway, we're going to go straight into the Fanatec settings. We've got the sensitivity on auto, force feedback strength on 100%, full force obviously not working 50. We've got natural damper on 25%, natural friction and natural inertia both on turned off. Interpolation filter is on 2, and the rest are on 100%. And then onto the in-game force feedback settings. We've got gain on 60%, minimum force is on 0. We've got the normal damp on 5%, dynamic damping just on 0, road effects up slightly at 2%, and obviously the frequency at 400 Hz. That pretty much should be on 400 Hz for everyone. You just leave that in 400 Hz. Steering lock is set to 1080. The rest of the settings there are just on default. And with the Assetto Corsa Competizione, we don't need to use Fanalab's dynamic force feedback. Because the in-game force feedback works that well with this wheelbase. There's absolutely no steering shaking for me, even with the nice high wheel weight and gain, so there's no need for Fanalab. Okay, now we're on to Raceroom. I don't play a lot of Raceroom. I do a bit every now and then from time to time. The force feedback is pretty good in that game. It works quite well with the DD+. I'm not a huge fan of the force feedback and the way it feels in the game, as in the way the cars feel, but I did play a significant amount of it to tune the settings for people that want to get the best settings and get the best out of their DD+ for this game. And we'll start with the Fanatec settings. So we've got the sensitivities on auto, force feedback strength on 100%, obviously full force on 50. Natural damper is on 25%, got natural friction is off and natural inertia is also off. Interpolation filter is on 1, force effect intensity is on 100 and the rest of them are on 100%. Like I said before, I'm not a big fan of Raceroom. The force feedback, I remember playing it quite some time ago with the CSL DD when I first had it and the previous wheelbase. I was fairly blown away with Raceroom's force feedback. It was quite good, but the rest of the sims have gotten that good with their force feedback detail. It just, to me, isn't as good as all the other ones out there now. The road surface is just feels a little bit too smooth for me. You'd be driving down the road on the straight and it just doesn't feel, you just don't feel the graininess of the road while you're driving. It feels too smooth in my opinion. Anyway, that's the Raceroom settings. Okay guys, we're on the rFactor 2 settings, and like I said before at the start of the video, these settings are also going to be for Le Mans Ultimate. So I tried these settings for both Le Mans Ultimate and rFactor 2. They run the same engine anyway, so they will work with both sim titles. The force feedback with rFactor 2 or Le Mans Ultimate is just absolutely amazing with the DD Plus. You get a real true weight feeling with the wheelbase. The wheel, it just feels excellent with no matter what car you drive, especially the paid cars. So all the cars that I tested were the ones that had the best force feedback anyway, and they were the paid cars. So in this video you'll see the I think it was the GTE Ferrari, just outstanding force feedback. So I did spend a significant amount of time shooting these settings. Like this game and the last one, we don't use Fanalab's dynamic force feedback. No need to use it in this game because the wheel doesn't shake at all. The game holds its own with the way the force feedback works down the straights. No shaking of the wheel. There is an incredible amount of detail with rFactor 2 and Le Mans Ultimate. I do like having a fairly weighty feeling. Keep in mind with these settings we're using for rFactor 2 and Le Mans Ultimate, you will need to change the per car force feedback. So if you're about to drive a car, you need to go into the options and turn the per car force feedback, or you can just bind buttons to your steering wheel so you can change the force feedback level per car. Sometimes you might need to turn it down, like I said with F1 cars and high downforce, you can turn down the force feedback a little bit. But yeah, the settings generally work well with all cars. So all these settings I've done are based on a lot of different types of cars, and I've tried to narrow it down to one setting per sim. So keep in mind you will need to change per car sometimes if you want to. So with the Fanatec settings, we've obviously got sensitivities on auto. We've got force feedback strength on 100%, full force doesn't do anything. Natural damping is on 25%, natural friction and the natural inertia are both off. Interpolation filter is on 3, and we've got force feedback intensity on 100, and the rest of them are on 100 as well. Going on to the in-game settings, you can see up on the screen there, we've got smoothing on 10. And that Ferrari I was driving had the specific multiplier for that car on 90%. Minimum steering torque, leave that on 0. Force feedback strength is on 100%. The rotation limits left on the software. Maximum wheel angle mode is on custom, and I've got that set at 1080 degrees. And range set by vehicle, so the rotation will be set per vehicle automatically. And the rest of them are basically left on default. So I won't show driving footage of Le Mans Ultimate. Just use those settings, guys, for Le Mans Ultimate. It will work just as well. I did test the game with these same settings, and they work perfectly, which works well because you've got five tunable settings in Fanatec. So I use the 5th one there for rFactor 2 and Le Mans Ultimate. So hope you enjoy all these settings I've done. I spent quite a amount of time with all these settings. Hopefully they work well for you guys. And on that note, guys, we'll call that the end, and thanks for watching. And if you want to see more of my content, just hit that subscribe button, and it really helps my channel if you want to hit the thumbs up. Don't forget, guys, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.